Hello, fellow investors, and welcome to another episode where we talk about all the things about real estate investing or investing in real estate that can help you to create wealth. June being Home Buyers Month, we're going to be talking about the home buying process, but instead of us just talking about the home buying process, I am going to talk about it from the perspective of you being an investor. Because if you're trying to buy a home and you just want a ready-made home that you want to live in, the process is slightly different from you buying a home as an investor. Investors are always going to be looking for making the most capital gains, or even just ensuring that they can maximize the equity that they are able to keep in the home from the start of when it is that they try to own a home to the point where they're able to take ownership of the home. So if you're an investor who is looking to buy a home, grab a notebook and a pen, and you're going to want to take notes. My name is Lerato Lekena-Okoro. I'm a realtor, investment strategist, and investment broker based in Lagos, Nigeria, and I help income earners such as yourself to make the most and the best decisions that they can make in the real estate investment journey. Now, the journey of starting in real estate is definitely a very long one. It's one that you don't want to start without a plan. You don't want to start with proper guidance, because despite the fact that it is capital intensive, you would be acquiring an asset that would very most likely be your biggest cost expense ever. And instead of you going through that process where you're spending the money and then you're also feeling really physically torn, worn out, or pulled out, and you feel like, oh no, why did I have to do that? My job is to help make it easier. And today I'm going to be talking and sharing tips from experience of helping people to do this for themselves. Now, the first thing that you want to be able to do is define your budget. And defining your budget can come in two ways. You either decide whether you're going to self-finance or you're going to get a mortgage, which would be a loan. If you decide to go for self-financing, then you have to have at least done some analysis of your income or your earnings to say, how much is it that you can actually pull together either at once or over a period of time? And I always advise, if you're self-financing, that you should actually go for it over a period of time, which means that you would be going for an off plan, because you would be getting it at its cheapest rate possible at that point in time. Now, if you're not going to be going that route where you're self-financing, then you would probably be going for a mortgage, which means that you would be having to buy a ready-made home or almost ready-made home, or you're buying a property off of someone. Now, if you're going for a mortgage, there's this thing that you must do, and you must get pre-approved. In the Western world, because a lot of their purchases are made on credit, the basic thing that a realtor, or the first thing that a realtor is going to ask you for, would be your pre-approval. If you don't have a pre-approval, chances are that you are not going to even be able to start the process with the realtor. Now, in Nigeria and Africa, it's a little bit different because we don't necessarily have these credit systems already set up. However, they do exist, which means that they exist as options, they exist as alternatives, they exist as facilities that people can think about and leverage on to be able to achieve their property goals. And if you want to be able to do that, then you need to start speaking to a mortgage broker so that they can help you to ascertain how much it is that you will be able to be approved for, because they would take your basic information, which would include your bank statement for about 6 months. It would also include your assessment, they will go and check your credit score. If you have any existing loans that are going to be factored in to the mortgage application, then they would do all of that and basically come up with what we call a pre-approval. Now, a pre-approval is not necessarily cast in stone, but at least you would have an idea, a good idea, which would be almost to the exact amount of money that you would be able to get in the event that you are going to be needing to draw down on that cash. So if your pre-approval is set at, say, 40 million naira, my advice would be that you go looking for a house that is within the range of 33 to 36 million, so that you have a small buffer to be able to cover any contingencies or eventualities where you would be having to go a bit higher in your budget, basically giving yourself some leg room for you to be able to wiggle through in the case that you may need it. So if you're not going the route of taking on a mortgage, I would have always advised that you try to go for an off-plan. Now, the process of choosing an off-plan property and development partner to go with can be a little tricky. Why? Because you're not only needing to evaluate whether the property that you're going to be getting will be delivered as they say, but you would also be looking at the work ethics, the project delivery timelines. You'll be looking at the developer's consistency to be able to deliver on time, because remember, it's an investment where you probably have some financial responsibilities that you need to be able to start repaying, or you need to start accommodating, or you just need to say, I want to be in my home by this time, because you just need to make it happen. So off plan, yes, it has its benefits, but just like anything else, it also has its risks or its fear points where you would have to work through them. And I always advise, work with a lawyer, somebody who can help you to dot your I's, cross your T's, and ensure that at least you can get some form of recourse in the eventuality that your property is either not delivered on time or your property is not delivered to standards of the agreement. So now that we have gotten the financing for the property out of the way, what you now need to do is to go and find the property. Now, finding a property can be easy, hard, can be simple, can be technical. In a lot of ways, I'd like to say that it depends on you, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily depend on you, but it relies and expects you to start the process. This is what I mean. Finding the home may not be your job. It may not be your responsibility. However, defining what type of home, where you want the home to be, what it is that you can, a home that you can afford to pay for, starts with you. You are going to be the basis foundation for every other decision that will be made in the home buying process. So let's presume that you are looking for a 3-bedroom flat when your budget can only pay for a 2-bedroom flat. Now, if you are going to say, or you're going to decide that you want to be able to stretch yourself a little more so that you can get the 3-bedroom flat, that is going to be your choice. If you decide to work with a realtor, or if you're working with a realtor, which again, I would always suggest that you do, because realtors are there to help make that process easier. You're not going to be able to go to God knows how many inspections to look through all the options that could be on the table, because if you're working with a good realtor, your realtor is probably going to go to at least 20 different homes before they are able to decide or say, yes, these 4 are best suited to you based on your choices or your decisions or your parameters, as you have said that you want your home to have. So work with a realtor so that the realtor can advise you, guide you, help you negotiate. Realtors are always in a position of knowing the developers, and when you're working with a good realtor, they will tell you by experience which developers tend to not necessarily fulfill certain conditions that you may have or want or even need. So the home finding process in the home buying process can be the most important part of it, because if, again, as someone who wants to buy a home and you're also an investor, you don't buy the best option of home that you can get and you are that applies to you, then chances are that you may start to find that that home may not necessarily work for you. I have a very common saying that says, people need to be able to make their real estate work for them. And that's very true, because real estate is a tool. The earlier it is that we start to remember that it is a tool and not just something that supports us, then the easier it is that we're going to be able to make these practical and logical decisions in choosing the homes that we want to buy or invest in how it is that we decide to use the properties, and how it is that we're going to be able to leverage them. Because when you know that it's a tool, you're going to remember that that property should serve you, not you serving the property. So let's take a few minutes to just talk about certain factors that help to improve the value of the home that it is you may be buying. 1, the location. Location is the one thing that most property advocates will tell you that has worked in their favor more often than not. And the reason is location defines who it is that you're working with. Location defines how fast it is that your property appreciation is going to be. Location determines how it is that your property is accessible. Because it determines a whole lot of other things, location is very important for you. Now, the next thing it is that you want to also ensure that you are looking out for as a home buyer would be, what is it, the amenities that the property has. Amenities help to serve a property, help to serve the lifestyle of the people that are going to be resident there. If you are looking to buy a home and you have kids, or you have somebody that doesn't know how to drive, for example, you always want to be able to say, how easy is it going to be for us to be able to access public transportation, or have public transportation, or friends come and help to drop somebody off at the house. That's going to be very key for you, because the more accessible it is that your property is, the easier that it's going to be for people to want to stay there. Now, remember, you're an investor. You want a property, even if you're going to live in it first. You don't want a property that's going to be so remote that only you can be comfortable in it, or only you can make it work for you. You also want a property that's going to be able to work for other people in the event that you may have to either lease it out, rent it out, or maybe even sell it out. So these are things that I would always advise that home buyers, who are especially investors, always look out for when they're buying their homes. Last but not least would be what the rates of appreciation for that type of property actually are. I'm going to explain. If you're buying a property in an area where there are mostly families, and you buy land in an area where there are mostly families, then you go on and build apartments for young people. Chances are that the young people that you think that you're trying to attract may suffer. I don't want to use the word suffer, they may find it more difficult to feel very comfortable there, because they are engulfed by families, and there's a certain lifestyle that comes with mixing two different demographics of target clients, and that may hurt your chances, or maybe the edge that you are able to enjoy in your property. And if you're looking to buy a home, it's going to be very important that you also look out for the building plans. Building plans and building approvals are one thing that, as a home buyer in Nigeria, investor or not, you have to ensure that you get building approval plans from the government, so that you are at least assured that your building is approved by the government. Because chances are that if it is not approved, then you could totally lose your investment just by the fact that you decided to go with a certain developer. Now, clients have asked me and said, oh, but why do we find it so difficult to get the building plans from developers? Now, as a home buyer or an investor, you may want to ask, oh, but why is it so important that you have the building approval plans to yourself? Now, in the event that you in future want to make some modifications to your home, your architect at that point in time is going to need those original building plans to be able to map out or understand how the weight and the pillars of the building have been positioned. Without them knowing what and where these details are, it's going to be so much more difficult for you to be able to make home modifications in the eventuality that you need to make them, or you need to have your home expanded, modified, or modernized. Because remember, modernization, modification of property is one way that you can increase the value of your property. So there we have it, guys. I've talked about the home buying process as an investor. We've touched on the details and factors that you need to look out for and things that you need to be able to ensure that you get when you are buying a home, either just as a home buyer or even as an investor. And most importantly, I have touched on the reason and the importance for you to get your building approval plans so that you can also know what and where it is that you will be able to make modifications in the future. If you've watched this far and you have not already subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, because if you watched this far, it means that you enjoyed the video. So please hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notifications bell so that you can get notified and informed when the next video drops. Till next time, bye.